Hey guys, welcome into my channel. My name's Chandler. And for those of you who are new to my channel, you know, I don't really have too much. As you can tell, my channel has only about 100 or so subscribers, but the reason you may be here is because you like to hear me talk about, you know, life. And today I have an interesting thought topic that I want to talk about, which is that of astrology, human design, any kind of, whatever you want to call it, a framework or a self assessment kind of test that you can take for, like, Myers Briggs, personality test, all those kind of things. And I just want to give my honest opinion about those tests. And I've taken a lot of them. I've taken Myers Briggs, I've taken the astrology assessment to see, or just, I guess it's not really an assessment for astrology, but it's just like your date of birth, time. I'm a Virgo, but then I have like a huge mix in my different signs in my chart. With human design, I'm a manifest generator. Um, and, you know, there were times when I was going through my entrepreneurial journey and I would be really looking for some kind of solution or framework to kind of tell me who I am. And while I think that these things can be super beneficial, and maybe you've taken one of these tests, and there's a bunch of them out there, they're super helpful, and I think that they can provide some necessary objective feedback to who you are, and there's a lot of science and validity to many of these different exams. Now, with that being said, I think that we can often pigeonhole ourselves into these frameworks. And I was listening to a channeler named Bashar. If you're not familiar with him, I highly recommend checking him out. And he mentioned how when you use any of these things, because someone basically in one of his live Q&A sessions asked him, what do you think about astrology, blah, blah, blah. And he basically said, well, what do I think about it? What do you think about it? He just kind of pinned it back to the other guy. And then he basically said, well, if it provides you with the permission slip that you need in life, meaning if it kind of helps you to better conduct yourself in the world, great. But he also kind of went into the idea that you don't need these frameworks to be successful or be your higher self or whatever it is you ultimately want to become. You're not pigeonholed into, because you're a manifest generator like myself, you can't focus and you want to skip steps, and you're meant to just you're kind of a generator, right? It's like if you're a generator, that means you're just doing and doing, and that means you can't like think about your energy and not use your energy all up, and you have to be always building stuff. And it's like, a projector is just going to, be able to help guide you on your journey, right? That's what we're told. And so, if you've dived into that world, you know how detailed it can get with all the different gates and channels, and the same thing with astrology. And I really think that they're valuable, but the common denominator that I'm underlying here and I'm putting out there is that you don't need any of them. What you do need is to just give yourself permission to be whoever you need to be, and not take yourself so seriously too at the end of the day. Like, I typically, you'll see with my videos, I'll just film them with my iPhone and a little mic here, and I just talk to the camera, and that feels right to me. I used to own a digital marketing company and I scaled that to six figures in the real estate industry, and it was very like cookie cutter. It had to be super, high definition 4K, 5K footage, that whole ordeal. And I found that to be extremely exhausting, trying to paint a picture of this ideal world where people are seeing this house and they're seeing the lifestyle behind it, and then therefore you're selling the lifestyle, you're selling the sunset, you know, and people then want to buy the home, not just because it's a nice home, but because it's a lifestyle. And, that's just marketing at the end of the day. You're selling the transformation, you're selling what people ultimately want at the end of the day. And so, you know, I have nothing wrong with anybody out there who's a marketer who's trying to sell something. We're all salesmen at the end of the day. I believe that because, whether you're selling a product or a service out there, if you're not doing that, then you're selling yourself on a job, or you're selling yourself on getting into a school. So, um, where am I going with this? Uh, I don't know. I just found that the topic was super interesting, when it comes to my life. And I found these tools to be super valuable, but I also found them to be very pigeonholing, like I've said, not to sound like a broken record. But, I think ultimately, like whatever it is that you're seeking out there, um, you know, just give yourself permission to just do it and take action and express yourself. Like, I think that, like myself being a creator, and, I did some high ticket sales online for a little bit, and I'm kind of taking a pause from that world because I was burning myself out yet again. And as I kind of reassess what I want to be doing online in this world, I've kind of been, just reflecting. And I think that what I ultimately don't want is to be trying to use manipulative tactics on people, by telling them that I can guarantee them something when I can't guarantee them something. The work ultimately has to come down to the person, um, that you're serving. You can't guarantee anybody results. Like if you're a coach, an entrepreneur, whatever it is that you're doing, the person has to take ownership in themselves. And that's something that I struggled with because I think I cared so deeply in when I was doing some online coaching. I was deeply involved in wanting the person to get results. And I just saw that, you know, they're not always going to do exactly what it is that you want. They're going to do it their way. And you have to be okay to just guide them and give them your best advice at the end of the day. And just trust yourself and trust the process and not get so wrapped up in the outcomes. And I think that if you are selling something or you're building an online brand or whatever it is, a personal brand here on YouTube, like myself, like just think about your intentions. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm realizing at 28 years old is that, I've built a successful digital marketing agency, which I am no longer affiliated with. And that was years ago. I decided to go during COVID and get my doctorate of chiropractic, which I just completed because that just felt like my next step on my journey. And I've done some online coaching, and I was doing some social media marketing while I was in college just to cover my bills. And so I know what it takes to hustle. I don't shy away from work and hustling. And um, this van that I'm sitting in right here, right now, I built it over COVID with my neighbor. And with, hammer and nail, I put in the roof, I put in the floor, and I put the bed in with him, and I did the whole sink and the built-ins, the cabinets, all that stuff. And I documented some of that process on my YouTube channel for you to see. But the reason I talk about these things is not to toot my own horn and not to be like, oh, look, I've done all this cool stuff, because, in a lot of ways, I'm very average. I'm not special by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not very smart. Um, I'm just somebody who, when I see an opportunity or something that I am excited about and that excites me ultimately on like a creative level, I'm going to go all out and all in on that thing. And I don't care what anyone has to say, or, if there's haters or there's people talking shit behind my back. I really don't care. I have nothing to lose kind of mentality. So I think that if you're ultimately looking for a confirmation, whether it's these tools that I mentioned, right? Like these frameworks, or maybe a coach to give you that accountability and that confirmation, like, great, take it, do whatever you can to build leverage in yourself. But at the end of the day, I think as you gradually start to level up spiritually in your journey, I think you will start to realize that you don't need any of these outside devices. The only thing that you really need is to look deep within yourself and say, what is it that I'm actually after in my life? What is it that I deeply desire? And start formulating the intention behind what it is that you want, and make those baby steps towards it. And don't expect these outcomes and don't be rushing into wanting the results right away, because that's where we can get really caught up in the process of trying to manipulate and get from other people very quickly, and then we can totally forget that the whole point of why it is that you deeply got into that thing was to have a deeper purpose and to help somebody. And as soon as you forget that, as soon as you lose that desire to ultimately serve someone else, people, especially online nowadays, can feel that. And I see it all the time when I am getting advertised to on YouTube, and maybe you feel the same way. Or when you go on Facebook or LinkedIn, it's like the nonstop posting of advertisements, people trying to sell you on the next thing, this book, this course, blah, 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 right? We're constantly bombarded with getting sold to. And ultimately what that does is it just creates a horrible reputation for your brand that you're creating. And then the person, is just saying peace out, like they don't want anything to do with you. And I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So when I say that, I'm saying it from my own experience of, trying to sell people and trying to manipulate and use psychology, because I've been really told that works and those are the strategies that work. But ultimately, long term, those strategies don't work. If you look at the truly successful people in this world, they are on a mission to change lives. It's not about the money, right? It's like about a bigger purpose and serving a bigger mission. So, that's when I look at my journey right now, I don't actually necessarily know 100% with clarity what my mission and my goal is with this YouTube channel, for instance. I just know that I enjoy YouTube. It's really helped me throughout my journey of life. Listening and watching other creators, it's really provided me with new ideas and new concepts and courses that I've taken. And, I've invested thousands and thousands of dollars into myself just to learn, because I'm a student of life. And I think that YouTube is a great free library of content to just really learn and apply the knowledge that you're taking in on this platform. So my thing would be, just start taking baby steps. Take action right now with whatever it is that you have. Like, work with what you do have and stop thinking about what it is that you don't have. And, to give you, I think this is kind of like a segue, but like as I was driving over here, I basically saw like so many cars speeding past me, and I'm driving like 50 miles an hour, very slow, not going too fast. And I just thought for a second, I was like, wow, people are moving so fast through life. Like they don't even have a chance to breathe. And I thought about that too with social media, right? There's so much information out there and it can be super overwhelming. And I think people are genuinely stressed the fuck out, and very much, we're selfish creatures at the end of the day. Everyone is in their own world. And so I think that one thing you can think about if you're a creator and putting yourself out there and just starting a project or whatever it is you're working on, is to like realize that everyone is in their own world. And sure, there might be some judgment or whatever, but whatever it is that you're putting out, like the people who don't resonate with your stuff are just going to unfollow you. They're just going to be like, this is stupid or whatever, and they're not going to watch your stuff ever again. And that's fine, because those weren't the people that you were meant to serve. And then, the ones who are liking, commenting, sticking around, maybe watching your stuff, like like an FBI agent behind the scenes. They're watching all your stories and you're like, this person's never reached out to me, but they seem to be watching my stuff. Like, they are clearly picking up what you're putting down and they're just curious, right? And so um, don't take those things for granted. I think what happens with social media is we think, oh, I'm only getting 50 likes or I'm only getting 100 views, or, some of my videos have 50 views and some of my videos have a few hundred, some of them have a few thousand. And like, I am just grateful for every single one of those views and likes and comments. Like, I don't care about the numbers because I just always have this perspective that imagine if we didn't have these tools, how would you be able to get your message out? How would you be able to talk and, express yourself? Like, you would have to go out in person and go to a coffee shop and like do a meetup, and you'd have to go like door to door knocking and like try to sell someone and just hit volume, you know, riding your bike door to door or something like that, which is like sounds absolutely insane nowadays when you have social media to reach thousands upon millions of people through simply talking to your camera. So I think where, we can look at social media as this like horrible thing, but I think it's really ultimately how we use it. And I was talking to my girlfriend about this last night. It's like social media is just a tool. And if the tool is using you and it's like you're just scrolling and it's making you miserable, then you have to just take a step back, reassess, and be like, why am I doing this? Like, if you're unhappy with the current circumstance that you're in and you're not happy with yourself, like, check in with yourself and be like, you know what? Maybe Instagram is the problem for me. Just I have an issue with how I use it and I'm scrolling too much. I should delete the app. But if YouTube doesn't do that for you and it's like, oh, YouTube's a platform where I can create long form content, then great, do that. Um, or if like TikTok's a great platform and you like creating on there, great. But I think what happens is when we are creators, we think that we need to be everywhere. And if you look at every successful creator out there, they will tell you that you cannot be everywhere at once. And these people who are posting on multiple different platforms have full teams behind them. So you can't forget that, So don't beat yourself up if you're not on all these different platforms. I'd say just pick a platform that makes sense to you and create there. Like for me, I have an Instagram, but I just kind of post lifestyle stuff there once in a while. And I have a Facebook, but I'm not really sure what to do with that. Um, and I have a TikTok, again, was posting some videos there, but I just wasn't really vibing with the short form stuff. So then I came back to YouTube because I feel like YouTube is my favorite platform when it comes to content, because it's not really like a short dopamine, instant gratification kind of world. It's more like people expressing themselves and sharing from a place of authenticity. And that to me is like the most important thing at the end of the day is being authentic and expressing myself. And that's what this is about from the beginning, and that's what inspired me. So I don't know what else to talk about in this video. I mean, I recently, just on a side note, like, just to be a little bit more vulnerable with my community of people here on this channel, is like, I recently paid off $40,000 in personal credit card debt. And I don't even know, well, I do know, but it was from overspending. That's how I got into that situation. But I never thought in a million years I would get into $40,000 in personal credit card debt. And it's something that kind of took me by surprise. And it got pretty overwhelming at a certain point in time when I was like, okay, I can't keep up with these interest payments. And, I've never been bad with credit cards in the past. I think when I was generating a really solid income with my startup and then I was paying my credit cards off on time every single month, it worked. But then gradually, as I got into graduate school, I kind of got carried away and got caught up in doing fun stuff with everyone and going to dinners and all that stuff, and thinking that I could pay off debt with debt. And so yeah, that got me into a pretty shitty situation. I was super overwhelmed, anxious, suicidal, depressed, all those things, not to put it lightly. And, if you're in a situation where you're going through credit card debt, I feel for you like it's the shittiest situation in the world. And I think that if you can, just make any kind of payments that you can. And for me, I was lucky enough to have been a somewhat of a savvy investor and invested in stocks that I had to unfortunately cash out and use my investment hard earned money to pay off that $40,000. It sucked ass. I didn't want to do it, but I ripped off the band aid because I was just like, this is way better than me not being able to sleep at night. Like, because literally every night I would go to sleep and the personal credit card debt was like eating away at me. I could not like live. Um, because if you are familiar with credit card debt, when it gets really out of hand, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill that gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you can't keep up with it. It's literally impossible unless you're making serious money. So I ended up just saying, fuck it, cashed out some stocks and paid off my $40,000. And it's hard to even say that out loud, and be open about that. But I just wanted to share that with you because I think that if it helps you on your journey and makes you realize that, maybe your situation's not as bad as you thought, or maybe your situation is worse than mine, well, at least this gives you hope that things are possible for you. And I share that openly too, because it's not like, I don't know. I care about people and I care about like humanity. And I think that it's shitty to be in these situations. And I think a lot of people are going through struggling times right now, and financially and all those sorts of things. And so I think, some people just, need the support and knowing that you're not alone in this world. And that's all I really wanted to share in this video, is just to help you know that you're not alone in your struggles. And, if you are going through, struggling times and you're not doing so well, like, don't be afraid to reach out to people in your circle and just ask for help, because, sometimes people are very generous and they're willing to help, if you just ask for it. And I luckily have two very supportive parents who, I basically was telling them I was in this horrible situation, and they couldn't help me financially in this situation, even though they wish they could have helped me, pay off these debts. They didn't help me at all. And they were real, but in a way they really did help me, because I was able to talk to them and just vent to them and cry to them and be like, hey, like, I don't know how I got myself into this situation, but you know I kind of screwed up. And they were just supportive and helped me realize that the smartest decision was to just clear it all together and get rid of that debt, even if it meant selling my stocks and hard-earned money, because it's better to have peace of mind at the end of the day, is what I realized, than to worry about money every second of the day. And so I think that also, this whole experience of highs and lows, it teaches you, right? And the lows tend to teach us a lot more than the highs often. And what I realized with my low of reaching that ultimate rock bottom is that I'm still grateful. And in the moment I had to be grateful as well for the low of getting to that point. And I think that if you can be grateful for every step of your journey, even if it's those low moments, you'll be all right. Like you're going to be fine. And I think that was the biggest thing, is it's like no matter how low shit can get, like you're going to be okay. And um if you're having negative thoughts or a bad attitude about things, like, and you just keep doing that on repeat, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get over those moments where you're really struggling, because it's just like a record player going on in your head where you're just thinking negative thoughts and talking badly about yourself and whatever it is. So if it's like, if you need to go scream in a pillow, like, and just get out some anger, go punch a wall, like go, maybe not a wall, but go punch like um, a kickboxing bag or something, like express yourself. And like, we're human beings at the end of the day. We're not meant to hold and harness all this like energy and just sit at a desk all day. And so I feel for people that, you know, are struggling to express themselves in that way. And it's like, I've many times in my life had real issues with expressing myself. And the only way I've known to express myself is anger or hard work. But that can only go so far. It's like we have to find love for ourselves at the end of the day. And the best way that I know to do that is to get outside in nature, ground my feet to the earth, like kind of get back to our hippie roots and, you know, eat clean and, you know, detox our bodies, like, you know, take away, or I guess minimize caffeine, tobacco, all those things. Because a lot of these things, when we're not in a good place, can just be crutches and, you know, in like little moments where we can take ourselves away. But I think what we really need to do, instead of take ourselves away, is look into our soul, like dive deep within our heart and find ways to release that energy and release those blocks so that we can, you know, find the core essence of who we really are. So thank you for watching this video, and be sure to comment, like, subscribe, all those good things if you choose to do so. And, you know, I'd love to hear from you. And if this video resonated with you, like, please drop a comment below. It really brightens my day, being able to see that, you know, these videos are actually being watched by somebody. And yeah, stay up, and I love you and appreciate you for being here.